There you are, 009. I've been examining this book of yours. Hardback copies like this are designed for maximum impact and effect. Very tasty.
Yes, I'm sure it is, but just tell me where it was made and by whom.
Well, fortunately it's all in one piece. We've looked closer at the colour setup and I can confirm that it's Rachael 2006 rather than the standard European Fogra 39, which leads us to deduce that it was printed in the USA.
Colthorpe, there's no such thing as Rachael 2006.
The fact there's no recognised book manufacturer in the UK, military or civil, that has produced a detailed and thorough encyclopedia of Bond weaponry doesn't mean that it does not exist, 009. Q Branch have been making irregular books and magazines for most unusual purposes, and we don't put the author's real name and address on them.
Making identification almost impossible.
You mean to say there's no way to trace the book's author? You've no idea what it went through to get here.
No, I wouldn't go so far as to say that. The workmanship is undemanding according to our standards. Printed litho on 150 GSM, coated stock, and then perfect bound into a standard hardcover and placed into a slipcase. But some of the weapons featured aren't even in the Eon archive. Huzzah?
Huzzah. Imaginative. Highly specialised. Yes, I concur.
Well, what the hell is Hazard?
Not what, who. Bond expert, lives in Macau.
Chap who printed the book 009.
I hate to interrupt your dinner, but does Senor Hazard live here? Hazard. I was given this address. Does he? Senor Hazard? My name is Ballard, Blair Ballard.
Oh no, my name is Lazar. We always get mixed up. But this is an unexpected honour, Mr. Ballard. Your reputation precedes you. This way, please. It would be the proudest moment of my career if I could make something for you, Mr. Ballard. A rifle, perhaps. Now here we have an interesting problem. A custom-built model for a client of mine who lost 2 fingers. Please.
He also lost his trigger.
It is housed in the butt. Squeeze it.
You want me to squeeze your butt? Oh, the trigger's housed in the butt. Very novel. The sights are a bit off.
You have 5 fingers. The butt is balanced for 3. That is why you were 1 inch too low. Here you will find only craftsmanship and quality. Mass production, your Walther PPK, for instance, I leave to others.
And ammunition?
Designed to individual requirements, whatever they may be.
Or books? In hardback, if I want?
I have already done that for a client.
I know you have. Mark Hazard.
My relationship with the client, Mr. Ballard, is strictly confidential, like a doctor, or a priest with a penitent, or a publisher with his author.
Yes, of course. But you make guns for fingerless hoodlums, bullets for assassins, print books for renowned 007 experts.
Mr. Ballard, books are merely for reference, to entertain and inform. Bullets do not kill. It is the finger that pulls the trigger.
Exactly. I'm now aiming precisely at your groin. So speak, or forever hold your peace.
I have never seen Mr. Hazard.
With the first paperback run of 007 The Armory selling out on Amazon in a matter of days, he must be your best customer.
That is true. But unfortunately, he only pops over occasionally, and I have to leave the copies on the doorstep.
When was the last time he came over to discuss the hardback release?
Mr. Ballard, this is impossible. I cannot.
You're right. 1 inch too low. Tell me how to find the elusive Mark Hazard or forever hold your paperback.
I've just had the first edition of the hardback printed today.
Who collects them?
I swear I do not know. My instructions are to leave them outside. I am paid and they vanish.
Excuse me. Seems you're in luck, Lazar. I've been summoned back to the office.
Ah, Ballard, I've been expecting you. The name's Hazard, Mark Hazard. Welcome to Macau. Excuse me.
Not a fan, eh? Welcome friends, welcome one and all. The bon vivant Blair Ballard very much at your service. I do hope that you're all in the finest of fine forms. Now, we are back on hallowed turf because we are in the man cave, the bongeon that is Donk's incredible modest collection. Now, obviously you saw in the pre-title sequence, we can finally reveal that Donk is in fact Mark Hazard.
Indeed.
It's always a pleasure, Donk, always a pleasure. I'd also like to introduce Rob here because Rob was very much involved with what we've come to talk about first of all, which is the 007 Armory book. But we're going to start right at the beginning because it all starts with this fella here, because today is actually obviously the anniversary, isn't it? It's the 70th anniversary of the release of Casino Royale. Now we have a very, very, very special edition here. This is the first edition.
That is the first edition from 1953.
So how old is it? It's 70 years today.
Exactly.
So happy birthday. I mean, how rare are these actually in the wild?
There are plenty out there. The problem is they all look identical. And you can really tell them apart by the pages, the paper that's actually used, the original stock. The first and second issues basically both took place in April of 1953. 13th of April 1953, the book was actually released. It sold out. The end of April, the second printing, which is still a first edition, which is actually what this is, was then released. And the difference between the two books are this has a review from, I believe it was, might have been the Sunday Times. It was a periodical at the time, and it's reviewed of its own book. The third edition then didn't come out until 1954. But they've all basically had this design under the boards. Under the cover is black balls with a single red heart. The dust jacket and indeed the design underneath was by Ian Fleming himself.
Oh wow, I didn't realise that.
There's plenty out there. The prices are getting mad. I mean, an edition like this could cost anything between 10 to 15,000. The one that actually came out on April the 13th, 1953, can go for £30,000. The prices they go for in America are actually plain nuts, but they are out there. You can't pick them up for a few quid anymore. The majority of them actually went to public libraries.
Oh wow, okay.
And a lot of them do turn up, do have library stamps in them.
Oh, bless, that's so sweet.
And with certain pages missing so that you can't actually date
Precisely.
the book itself.
And that is when you then look at the pages, you look at the first two not completely flat down that way. And it's just the cut of the edge of the paper. And that's really how you tell the difference. But it's like a cinema poster. You learn what is correct and what isn't. I think it would be a nightmare now actually trying to track down a first edition Casino Royal.
But that's where it all started for you.
Yeah, to be honest, this is the only Fleming book I own. As you know, this all started me with the double bill of Dr. No and Thunderball. Later on, it then sort of moved on to the books, but I always told myself, if I was ever to read Casino Royal, it would be from a 1953 first edition. And I didn't want one that was falling apart.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, it looks like it's not even been read. I mean, the pages themselves are immaculate. Doesn't look like it's been thumbed at all.
No, it's certainly a lovely copy, but I must confess I still haven't read the damn
Audiobook, much easier.
But the day will come when I will sit down and read this.
It's a beautiful thing. And it informed your future.
Oh, exactly. I mean, let's face it, this is where it all started. 17 years later, it's a major franchise. What would Eon be doing without it? Quite a few versions of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, probably. But yes, this is where it all started. This is the 70th anniversary today, so happy birthday 007. Thank you for making me broke.
But this leads on to the book that you both worked on. I mean, how did that all start?
Please, thank you. How did that start? Well, basically, I approached Eon with an idea a long time ago. Just told them I was doing it, but it all did start as a magazine article about one gun, a Walther P99, which Pierce had used in 3 films and Daniel Craig had used in Tomb Raider. It never was going to go any further, and it basically just started like this. It was just a few sheets. I don't know how it grew, but I found myself working till about 2 o'clock in the morning some mornings, just typing away on the keyboard like an absolute idiot. And eventually there was 50 pages or so, and then there was about 100 or so colour photocopy pages of various weapons that had been tracked down over the years. And I was seriously going to actually hand this over to Eon and say, yeah, want to publish this? Which they'd probably have laughed in my face and thrown it at me. And I'd sent it to a few people I knew on AJB, a chap named ASP 9mm, another chap named Dodgy Spike, somebody called Acacia Avenue, which is our friend Rob here. But nobody else had really seen it. Richard Hooper, who was the head of the Bond Armourers then, a company called Crown Tower, he'd read it. Well, initially he just read the parts that he was involved with. And from that, he liked what he saw. And he then got involved with the project. Chap by the name of Anthony Watts, who was the head of the other Bond Armourers, Bapty, which came before Richard. He was also very supportive of the project. And when it came to actually present something to Eon, Rob, who I knew as a printer, I didn't actually know he had the capability he actually had. And sorry to phrase it like that, Rob, but I had no idea that you could actually do the design work that you did. And he suggested, would you like me to put something together for you? And so it basically went from photocopies like this to a hardback book called 007 The Armory.
Because in the interim, we've got different versions. Talk us through briefly how these evolved, because you've got...
I was trying to actually, in the back of my mind, I've always liked the way that Graham Rye of 007 magazine presented 007 magazine, wrote 007 magazine. And so I started to basically replicate what could be 007 magazine. If you actually see there, it says Mark Hazard and Graham Wright. At that time, he wasn't even involved with it, but there was the potential of it becoming that way. The book you see there, which is 007 The Armory, that is actually what was submitted to Eon a matter of years ago, but they were also offered a book back in 2016, which Rob had kindly put together, very similar to this, and they wouldn't even look at it. And at that time, that's when they hit me with the cease and desist, and the project was basically dead in the water then. But because there was a finished product, basically a retail quality volume, 007 magazine wanted to see it. And when they did see it, they liked what they saw, and they actually took it on to publish it. So if they hadn't committed to it, we probably wouldn't be talking today, because I don't think it would have gone any further.
Is that the one I received here in the gold packaging, this one here?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I remember this dropping my doormat, and very distinctive kind of packaging we've got here. But it is, this really kind of, it started the ball running for me. It's just absolutely forensic. Now, how did this evolve into 007 the Armory? Because you've got more and more information, more guns, more, the production values obviously went even higher. And Rob, you're involved in this as well, weren't you?
That's right. We'd almost sort of finished the original printed version of Famous Gun, which came out in November 2016. By January of 2017, Donk was saying to me, I've got ideas, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. So from that very point, even before the original book had been sold out, we were actually progressing onto what we was calling Famous Gun 2. And within that period, further items were being added almost all the time. John was getting further information, shall we, about certain items which we were then rewriting and putting back into the book. Mm-hmm. So although the standalone original was there, we was creating this second one, which was just sort of growing and growing and growing. Obviously, over periods of times, it became a lull. Obviously, with the theft of the guns 3 years ago, that put the project really on hold for a good time, because obviously it was not something that John wanted to continue on at that particular point. I suppose then, when John got his mojo back, it was all systems go again. We really did go into this quite seriously. I would say 95% of the images of the firearms that you see in the book now have all been reshot. There's very, very few original images from the Famous Gun book. The conscious decision also was to put them onto blue backgrounds, because John's original remit to me was he would like it to look like a Christie's catalogue. Oh. The Christie's catalogue had basically all what I'd call the items that were up for sale were on a blue background, so that is where we replicated this sort of kind of style. Also with associated screen grab images as best as possible that could be associated with it.
Sure.
So I think I must have spent a good 3 months, I suppose, just taking in all these new images, cutting them out in Photoshop, placing them onto blue backgrounds to be reinserted into the book as they were at that particular point in time. We finally got to a point where we were sort of satisfied that we'd gone as far as Spectre. No Time to Die was going up and down. Nobody knew what was going on with it.
Did Eon? I wasn't sure.
No, I don't think anybody did really. and so we had this conscious thought that really, to finish it off, we must do No Time to Die. So it was a bit of a case, well, okay, the film's going to come out then. Oh, no, it's not. We can wait. And so there was a lot of what I called lull time in between what I'd called what we'd finished and then going on to No Time to Die. But oddly enough, even within that sort of period of time, Donk, being his usual self, he's always finding new information about certain aspects of pistols and what they were appearing in and how they were used and what have you, and new details, information. We were constantly updating the book.
So the first run though of 007 the Armory, the paperback version on Amazon sold out, didn't it? It was like days.
It sold out in 48 hours, which caught everyone, publishers, me. We just didn't expect it. We hoped it would sell, but we didn't expect it to sell that quickly. One thing I would like to add is what actually got the ball rolling again with this was the death of Roger Moore. Because I then approached Graham at 007 magazine and said, look, I've got a lot more material. Would you like to do a Roger Moore tribute edition? Which I thought was a great idea, and I thought it would honour Roger. And he wasn't interested. So I said, no, to hell with it, I'll do it myself. So we produced a Roger Moore tribute issue. There was only 7 books printed. Wonder why that was. I forgot number 7.
Yeah.
And a copy was presented to Eon when we were at Bond in Motion. And I was first lent in the little Nelly helmet and the Asprey set, and I presented them a copy, and I think they were genuinely surprised at the quality of it. And I said, well, it's basically the one that you wouldn't look at back in 2016, updated to honour Roger. And from there we sort of started talking, and I thought we were building up a more positive relationship. When Sean passed away, it just became natural to produce something for Sean, but not to do Famous Gun again, but then to do 007 The Armory, because so much had been found since the original Famous Gun. And we work on like effectively a matrix where you put pieces of jigsaws into holes. Mm-hmm. And it just started to fill up this file to an incredible size, and I realised that there could be something really special coming. It was delivered to Eon, I think it was the 13th of September.
That's right, yes it was.
They had it for 6 months on approval, but during that time the firearms had become sort of politically incorrect, with Alec Baldwin accidentally shooting someone on set, and so firearms, even in America, just became not the thing to be involved with. And so Eon, even though they originally supported the idea, rejected it. Didn't really know where to go, but thankfully somebody in America had actually seen the Eon volume. I won't go into the details how he got access to it, but he did actually get access to the book. He liked what he read, and he approached me and said, I'd like to publish this. He gave me a deadline of when the book needed to be finished by. Literally, well, right up to the deadline with more improvements. Rob will remember I was probably changing it on a daily basis, and it was growing and growing. And, oh, I've also found this, and I've got access to that. Yeah. And this was really turning into something special.
It was getting serious.
Sure.
It went to print, and even when it went to print, I was still researching other things. There are things that are in the hardcover that's only just been published that are not in the softcover, because just from a time frame point of view. So it's always been evolving to what it is today.
So if you've got, even if you've got the most famous gun in the world and you've got the softback, it might be worth getting the hardback as well, maybe.
Yeah.
Complete
I believe so.
Say, from Famous Gun to the Armory, there's 40 extra pages in the Armory.
Wow. But it's, you know, it's how many runs have you had now for the soft cover?
The soft cover is currently on its 3rd print run.
So there you go, getting quickly, guys. Okay. Oh, I was going to ask you as well. I mean, any more updates on the missing piece from your collection?
Unfortunately, not. March the 23rd sort of came and went this year. The publishers of 007 The Armory have actually put up a reward, even though I'm funding it as well. And if the guns turn up, there is a reward. Each book has got a reward poster in it. They have gone online. I believe James Bond Lifestyle, when the reward was actually announced, had something like 50,000 hits in a matter of hours. So people are aware that A, the guns are still out there, B, there's a £10,000 or $12,000 reward for their information leading to their recovery. We've heard nothing, unfortunately, but I live in hope.
Well, we'll put links down in the description below, more descriptions of the guns as well. We will put links through to all the sites that are involved in the search. But we've also got quite a few guns to get through, haven't we, today?
Indeed we have, yes. And I'd like to take this opportunity this time to thank the armourers who actually had all the weapons in storage and have actually released the items for today, and hopefully be picking them all up tomorrow. But this is the first time they've all been together for, well, since the break-in actually.
So, anyway, strap yourselves in, guys. Set your faces to stunned, because we've got 60s, 70s, 80s, Daniel Craig. We've got about 5 tables to get through. So, settle down, get yourself pour yourself something stiff and shaken but not stirred, and we'll crack on. So, first table, Donk, 60s.
Indeed.
Should we start with this, the Mauser? That's uber rare, if I'm led to.
Absolutely. That is a stunt. It's made of a very brittle resin type material, but it was made for Robert Shoring from Rush With Love.
Remember the scene, guys? Remember the scene when he's is it the gypsy?
He's at Gypsy Camp, yeah.
Gypsy camp, and he's helping Sean out, popping off a few bad guys in the fight scene. So how did this come into your sphere? Or is that a difficult question to answer?
Not at all. You will have seen that in photographs of Ken Adam at his workstation at Pinewood Studios. It's the actual one that's on the window ledge, and if you actually look at the shape of the trigger, it's very, very specific shape, whereas the standard Mauser, it's more straight.
Wow.
And so you can actually match it like a fingerprint. But it was made by, and indeed it came from John Steers.
Oh, legend.
And it was at a time when there was no interest in such things. And he was only just starting to sell his bits off, I believe, through Christie's, and that's probably round about 99, 2000, something like that.
And it's made of, is it Bakelite? Is that mixture, isn't it? The weird kind of Bakelite-y kind
It's
of
more
resin?
of a resin than a Bakelite, but it's just incredibly brittle. If you look up close, it's like the PPK you previously looked at. It is cracked to buggery.
Yeah.
It's amazing it survived. It has fallen over and broken a few times and been glued. But it is an incredibly iconic thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts?
Once again, most Bond fans who've seen From Russia With Love would recognise it straight away. It's just up there with iconic pieces, without a doubt.
It's just incredible.
As you actually see him putting it together as well,
Yeah.
which gives it even more.
Oh, so cool. Robert Shaw, absolute legend. Now, we've got 2 more pieces in front here, 2 more. What are these ones here, John?
Well, they were originally believed to be Beretta 950s. They're actually Beretta 950 Minxes, and the Minx is different to the standard 950 because it has a long barrel. It looks like a baby Walther P38, but the barrel is then cut off, and the muzzle has then been fixed very close to the body to make it very, very distinctive. And both of these particular pistols were used in 1965 in Thunderball by Luciana Paluzzi.
One of your favourites.
Oh yes.
Named your Aston Martin after her?
I certainly did.
Oh, she's a beauty. I was very fortunate to meet her, last year at the 007 in concert at the Royal Albert Hall. Beautiful, still very, very beautiful woman, and very generous with her time as well. So which scenes were these used for? Because there were 2 different ones, obviously. Do we know which one's which?
Well, it's basically in the hotel room where Fiona first points the gun at Sean.
Sure.
Sean turned around and said, "I was under the pillow all the time."
Of course.
There are 2 guns. They were absolutely identical. Originally, in 1965, they would have been blued. These have been polished for a very specific reason in a slightly later film, but you'll definitely know when you see them what they were actually polished for. They were used again in the 1970s, so they will actually remain on the table when we finish this segment for another Bond film. So they've been around for a bit.
Well, that's the thing you were saying. If you haven't seen the last 2 videos, please do check them out, because we go through the process that a lot of the guns were reused for different films.
Exactly.
So there's a small pool of guns. Now, I've been told, I haven't opened this box yet, and I've been told that I might be quite shocked by what we find inside. Is it just a... is it
Just flick it to the side, push it to the side.
Oh, that... Okay, whoa. Okay, so Whose PPK is this then? Well, for the 1960s.
That is a PPK which was used by a complete tool.
Oh, your best mate George.
Indeed.
You're not a fan.
I was an incredible fan of him until he wanted to be paid for supporting the campaign to recover the guns. He doesn't need the money. He made so much money from real estate from Honour Majesty's. He doesn't need the money, and yet he wouldn't lift a finger unless he was paid. So I think he's a tool. I think he was a great Bond, but now I think he's a tool.
It is one of my favourite films, but yeah, I've heard stories, unfortunately. George, put it together, mate. Put it together. But that's the one he used. Was that only used for On Majesty's Secret Service?
No, Roger also used it.
Oh, whoa. Which film did he... Oh, did it carry... It was the one that was passed on...
Precisely.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Piece of history.
Yes, I should say so.
Roger.
I spent a great deal of time trying to screen match that with the one where you see the close-up, where you see the front of the bobsleigh and you see the pistol firing.
Yes.
And I could never screen match, and it wasn't until later on when I actually knew a bit about how these films were made that that's what's called an insert shot that was plywood, and Lazenby wasn't even present, and so it wouldn't have been the gun he used in location anyway.
Right.
So it didn't match. And so I gave it away. And it wasn't until years later that I actually realised what the damn thing was, and I managed to get it back.
Oh, right. Is this the one he uses when he's wearing the blue parka in Pit's Glory as well, or is that a separate one?
It's quite possible. There's no actual record in 1969 what pistol he was using for what scenes. So we just know it was Lazenby's. Originally I was just told it was used in a Bond, that they didn't know which one, and that's perfectly true. The records weren't kept in that way, and so I gave it away.
But I mean, he's got that kind of critical face, and you know, yeah. Oh, but Roger though. So this was used in what, Live and Let Die, and then.
Again, it's like the previous one. It's believed to have also have been used in most of Roger's.
Oh, crikey! Legend. Brilliant. Okay, so. That's our... Well, we've got a few larger pieces. I should take the magazine out, shouldn't I, really?
Yep, won't fit in the box otherwise.
Crikey, well done. Well caught, Blair. Well, yes, because we've got some more pieces from On Her Majesty's Secret Service to look at.
We have, if you don't mind, I'll move that while I'm away.
And I think we should put this somewhere safe as well, because, that is... Right, yeah.
Well, this is what is called a SIG STGW 57. Now, this is the actual rifle. Serial number, if you look on it, is PO 0057, so 007.
7 on there, yeah.
And 57 in the serial number. This, I was told, was the factory rifle, which was used on the production, and this is what you see in publicity photos with George Lazenby.
Oh, when he's like in his tweed, but he's like holding it and...
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Didn't actually use it on screen, but it was used on the publicity photos, and as you've already seen, this is incredibly heavy.
Let's have a go, let's have another go. Oh, crikey. Yeah, it's, you know, yeah, because he's holding it like one-handed, isn't he,
Yeah.
in the publicity shots. We'll put
And
the
hitting
photograph of
people
that up
with
there. Yeah, exactly. But it weighs a ton. I mean, this is, it's Swiss, and they know how to make their guns.
Very well made.
Oh, it's very cool, though.
But then, obviously, the guys who were skiing are also carrying SIG STGW 57s. Now, you couldn't ski
like this,
carrying
it's
this damn thing.
one hand, but yeah, crikey, when they're down here, you know, idiot. Okay, we'll put that back and we'll show what they actually did use
Indeed.
instead. Where shall I pop that? Shall I pop that back there? Is that going to be safe?
Any way you like.
Okay, that's cool. Let's have a look at the other ones then.
Right. What the guys who are actually skiing were carrying is this. And this is made of resin.
Right.
And you'll find there's a great difference in the weight.
Oh, it's floaty light. Yeah, that's much easier to handle. It's still got a bit of weight to it, though.
And they were literally using those as ski poles. If you actually watch the footage, they're sometimes holding it out to the side of them to sort of balance themselves. Sometimes they're carrying it across the front of them.
There you go, Rob. Have a look at that. But you can see, it's, you know, it's not as well sort of moulded as the later
it's
ones.
like the jar.
But it's still got a bit of weight to it.
It was rough. I mean, compared to sort of modern stunts, I mean, up close, it is very rough. But
when you're going down, you know, at night time, obviously, or
I was thinking, because it's mainly at night time.
so it wouldn't have been too important. But it's, you know, what a piece of history, though.
This is beautiful.
and they also carried what are called special effects guns.
Oh, let's have a look.
This one, I only know of 2 that are still of their actual original colour used on location, and this has a battery box on the side. Can't open it, unfortunately, but then I can't open the charge either. There's probably batteries still inside it. And this would fire a special effects charge, and it will also light up. And this was done by the trigger is sprung. There's a button behind the trigger, and one button would actually activate the special effects charge, and the secondary button would operate the lights. And these were mainly used at Pinewood Studios, but this one was actually used on location because it's still marked up with its crew sticker.
Oh yeah, we can see that. You've got the Shilthorn 007 Murin on there.
Yep.
I skied down there once from Piz Gloria. It's terrifying. They don't have, you could take the cable car up there, but you couldn't take the cable car down. So you had to ski down. It's like a black run, but virtually sheer. But we saw a guy being medevaced out when my brother and I went up there to go and check out the Bond location. And this guy had broken both legs and his collarbone, but dislocated. So we were like, oh crikey, but a couple of glue vines, no worries at all. So yeah, but absolutely terrifying. But
But you weren't being chased.
I wasn't being, exactly. But that's so cool. So there are 2. Oh yes, there are 2. We'll get a close up there, but there's a button right behind the trigger there. So that would be doing the squib for all the flash for and then this would be the lights.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Flare.
He's making for the village.
All right, we'll head him off at the precipice.
And pieces from on a Majesty Secret Service are and before 60s very, very rare. So it's amazing you've got 3 of them.
Well, John Steers told me back at the Pinewood Studios, and I think it was in '89 at a James Bond International Fan Club event, that there was only 7 made. And that wasn't because it's 007, it's simply because the fact the 7th one out of the mould was absolutely knackered.
Oh, right.
And the one that recently sold at auction last year, you probably remember, the barrel was curved.
Yeah.
And that's simply because the mould was worn out.
Yeah, we saw that in the video.
And that's the last one that actually came out of the mould, and I've been told that was exported to America and it's been destroyed by US Customs.
Because we saw that in the prop store video. If you haven't seen the prop store video, I put a link up here because we saw that was going under auction, and yeah, the barrel is definitely meant to. That was the one that was destroyed at.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, it was also reused on When 8 Bells Toll, the Anthony Hopkins film in 1971, and you can clearly see the one closest to the counter, the barrel bent.
So that was reusing, but that's quite a Bond film, isn't it? It's the Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the character is basically James Bond, all but in name, to me.
And there are quite a few. I mean, there are a lot of people involved who got Bond connections as well. Aren't there?
Oh, precisely. Yeah. I mean, there were people behind and in front of the camera who were sort of, associated with the Bond family. Obviously filmed at Pinewood Studios, and I believe it was also filmed on the Piz Gloria set.
Oh, what
parts of it?
Oh, yes.
You can actually match some of the images where there's the sort of boat dock where they're having their shootout. with parts of His Glory where there was a staircase. And it just matches up, it's just set left at Palmer Studios, and apparently there were 3 guns that were used for blue screen projection from Her Majesty's at Pinewood, and then they were repurposed for When Eight Bells Toll.
So check it out. I haven't actually seen it. I've seen clips of it, but I haven't seen the whole film. So that's
It's a good film, it's worth seeing.
Well, anything with Anthony Hopkins has got to
I
be a
can
winner.
remember seeing it when it first came out.
No way. Crikey. Well, look, we're done with the 60s now.
We certainly are.
Should we sashay into the 70s?
Let's do that.
Well, I've transformed. Now we're actually going to be doing the 70s and 80s. I'm going full Roger Moore for your eyes only. Hope you don't mind, gentlemen. Sorry, forgive me, this old stager. So we've got some 70s and 80s pieces here. Now, we've seen these minxes before.
Indeed we have.
As we say, yeah. But these were actually also used by...
Maud Adams as Andrew Anders.
Oh, yes, of course. All right, of course.
Water pistol?
Oh, this is the one.
Yep.
Good afternoon. A water pistol.
Pass me that rope.
Steady.
Barbara Bach, Maud Adams, I mean, they're just... I think they got it so right in these sort of,
And
70s.
don't forget Luciana.
And Lucia, of course. But a water pistol. A water pistol? Oh, wow, that's... Yeah. Maud, I know you're a fan of the show, so here we go. Reliving... I hope that's too traumatic for you. Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely wonderful. And the other one, the other minx, was that interchangeable? Was that used a different scene, or...?
There are 2 identical guns. At the time for Maud, they were both blued, as they were for Luciana Paluzzi and Thunderball. And as you know, they would later be used again.
They were used again?
Indeed.
Oh. I'm trying to think. It's not License to Kill? No. Which one was it used for next?
They were both used in The Spy Love Me by Barbara Bach.
Oh, Barbara Bach, of
Triple
course.
X.
Don't move. Microfilm. Give it to me.
Crikey, how could I forget that? Barbara, I'm sorry, forgive
And
me.
interestingly, all 3 had bathroom scenes.
Yes,
Well, there you go.
Yes, either in the bath for Luciana and then
Or in the
showers
shower.
for Barbara and Maud.
Yeah.
Roger. Well, Sean obviously had it, but, crikey O'Reilly. Oh, just beautiful. Now look, sticking with Maud, because I know this is another... This is Octopussy?
That is an Astra Cub, as you say, used by Maud Adams in Octopussy.
Make sure the horses are saddled. Yes, Excellence. I'll join you in a few minutes.
Do you really think you can escape me?
Orloff betrayed us. I swear I knew nothing about the bomb. We're partners, we're friends, Octopussy. I would never do anything to hurt you.
It's beautiful. I love the grip there. Is it mother of pearl or effect?
I think it's simulated.
It's, it's very, very compact little pistol. So what mill is
That's
this?
an Astra Cub, and that's actually 2.2.
Oh, okay, cool. So it wouldn't do too much damage, though. I wouldn't like to be in the wrong end of it, but
No, it wouldn't do you a lot of good, to be honest.
But it's so compact. It's amazing, isn't it? Amazing, amazing, amazing. There's a safety there. I mean,
It's almost like a starting pistol.
It is, yeah, exactly. Start something beautiful. Now, sticking with Roger, we have seen this particular PPK before. This is one of Roger's, isn't it?
It is, and it's just brought out as it is a 70s pistol, basically.
But Rob, you spotted, something that obviously...
Well, I haven't spotted it. It's one of John's comments that you can actually see in the original promotional shots from 1973, where they've got the suit, the briefcase with the shark gun and the other items there.
Oh, yes.
You can actually clearly see that mark in the grip.
We'll get a nice close-up of that. So it's like a fingerprint, really.
It is.
But-
That's why I like it. 'Cause
Well,
it's just got something that...
It's just beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, even the bottom of the grip on that side has been filed.
Has it?
You can also see that in that publicity photograph as well. I have no idea why that was done, and the actual damage or the cutout in the grip is very, very odd. I mean, how it was done, why it was done, don't know. The stunts that were cast off it have also got that defect.
That's right.
Oh, wow, of course. That's so cool, Roger. So cool. Wow. Now, sticking with the Roger as well, this is a Ruger.
It is.
Tell us the significance of this one.
Now, this has
Donk?
got a very sort of interesting story because that's what's called a Ruger Mark I. It's effectively a target pistol. That was heavily modified for Roger for use in the Spy Love Me. It didn't actually appear on screen, but it was used in the Seiko Watches campaign. You've probably seen pictures of Roger holding it up and sort of holding it like this, which is a bizarre way to actually hold a gun anyway.
But it's also famous because, I mean, wasn't the original gun that Ian Fleming used?
Precisely. And that's why that was used, and that's why it's so iconic, because when Ian Fleming was advertising his books in 53 onwards, he had a Ruger Mark I pistol.
But it's beautifully, sort of chromed, or it's just wonderful.
It's actually not chromed. They've polished all the blue off.
Oh, right,
That's why earlier today when we inspected it, it had a touch of rust on it, because anything that touches an unblued surface will, the oils in your skin, it will start to rust it. I mean, even the PPK that's laying on the table, I can see from here, there are traces there where the blue is starting to rust.
Right.
Which doesn't bode very well for my poor guns that got stolen that could be in a river somewhere.
Oh, we've got to. We'll put the details of the missing guns. But if anybody out there knows anything about where they might be located, I mean, just to reunite them with you, Donk, would be absolutely, incredible.
And there is a £10,000 reward of information leading to their recovery.
Exactly.
And if somebody says they've got access to them and they want more than £10,000, I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'm not going to say no. So if anyone knows where they are, they've got to be recovered. They need to be in a museum. Thank you, Indiana Jones.
Absolutely.
One interesting thing I always found with the Ruger is when it was down at the Armory, nobody had a bloody clue what it was. No one at all. It took me a while to actually work out what the gun that Roger was holding in the publicity images were. I always thought it was what used to be called a high standard auto mag, which is an American gun that the California Highway Patrol motorcyclists used to carry. But it wasn't until I actually came across this thing in a case, I thought, oh my God, I've been looking for that for years.
It's beautiful. It's a very elegant looking gun. Now, finally, we've got, this is a P5, if I'm not very much
That is
mistaken.
a Walther P5, yes.
And the significance of this one is?
That was used by the late great Sean Connery in Never Say Never Again, but it was also used by the equally late great Sir Roger Moore in Octopussy.
Because they felt they had to keep up with the more modern version of the...
It's the more modern version of the Walther P38. The interesting thing when Roger used it in Octopussy, there is the scene where he hands Q his shoulder holster. He says, I've lost my PPK.
Also mislaid my PPK.
And obviously he's using a P5, so it wasn't a PPK anyway. And that shows that originally Roger was using a PPK for his scenes in Octopussy, until Sean actually appears in all the publicity images for Never Say Never Again carrying the P5. And I actually spoke to the armourer involved, and he literally just said to Sean, try this, Sean. And he handed in the gun. It had only just come out. The armourers only had 2 of them. Sean immediately liked it. It was used on Never Say Never Again. Roger then used the exact gun on Octopussy, so when Sean was then filming overseas, they contracted an overseas armourer called Maritia, who actually had a P5, and the scenes in the hotel room were a completely different P5.
Oh, right.
So there weren't many guns.
Now, we're going to cut now because I'm, wearing this for a reason, because we've got quite an interesting crossbow to
Indeed we do.
at. Okay, coming back right now.
No, Melina. That's not the answer. We'll turn him over to the Greek police.
Out of my way, James.
All right. But be prepared to dig those 2 graves. That's Dayton, comrade. You don't have it. I don't have it.
Now this again is quite a special crossbow. It's not just any old crossbow, is it, John?
No, it's what's called a safety bow.
And why is that?
To stop someone shooting other people, basically, on set.
That's right, because this is actually all sort of, there's no tension here. It wouldn't be able to...
Precisely. It enables you to point at other actors with your finger on the trigger without worrying about endangering them. And so the bow is actually cast in the cock position. Normally, the bow would almost be dead straight.
You can see that there. So yeah, that would be much flatter, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So it's actually cast like that, so it looks like it's under tension, but
Yeah.
actually wouldn't have. So Melina could point this at her fellow actors without.
Yeah, Miss Bouquet was quite keen on pointing those at fellow actors. I don't think she was aware that the thing wouldn't actually fire.
Oh right, so she's just being really, very French.
They're like any weapon. You shouldn't actually have your finger on the trigger until you're physically ready to fire. But every picture you see of her finger's on the trigger.
So Agincourt, Cressy.
And so that's pretty much why that thing was designed.
Oh, it's so cool. I mean, I think we mentioned in one of the other videos about the other bayonet crossbow that was used in the perforation scene for
the commander.
Gonzalez, the commander, yeah, with the one that cocks the... Because this, normally this would have a stirrup on the front, wouldn't it?
Exactly, yeah, but it's... To actually be able to cock a bow is incredibly hard. You really have to pull down from each side and pull back. So you've got a foot stirrup down there, then you're pulling back like this, and you actually watch it on screen. She shot someone, and immediately it's reloaded. Now, no disrespect to her or any member of the cast, without a stirrup, you are not going to be able to recock that. So it's fired once, and that's the end of it.
Sure. But very cool indeed. Now, we're going to wrap this particular part 1 of this video up now because we're going over time really. But we've got 90s and noughties.
90s onwards, yeah.
90s onwards.
Mr. Brosnan and Mr. Craig.
Exactly, for part 2. And we'll show you some clips now of what's to come for part 2. So keep an eye open for that. Don't forget, if you like this video, please do hit the like button, subscribe button. And turn on notifications so that you'll be ready for when the next video drops. But for now, this has been
Donk
and
Rob
and myself, Blair Ballard, the Bon Vivant, bidding you a very bon farewell. Stay safe, friends. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please do consider smashing those like and subscribe buttons. Do turn on notifications so you know when the next video drops. Also, leave some comments down below as to any videos you'd like to see in the future. But for now, stay safe, friends. We'll see you next time.